The 2026 NFL Draft is complete. After 3 days, 257 selections, several notable trades, and a few stunning decisions, all 32 teams have their 2026 draft classes in tow. As is always the case this time of year, every team should feel like it has improved its roster, though some should feel better about the work they've done over the weekend than others. Tonight, we assess how teams navigated the draft, addressed their top needs, maximized draft and trade value, prioritized team and scheme fit, and married draft strategies to long term franchise plans. Based on these factors, we present this 2026 NFL Draft Recap featuring post draft grades for every team. And here, you'll find a look at every selection from every team with overall class grades. Teams are listed in alphabetical order. This is the 2026 NFL Draft Recap edition of TXN Sports World. Hey there, welcome everybody to our 2026 NFL Draft Recap special. I am your host, Anthony Florio, joined, as always, by good old MF Michael Fletcher. We are awaiting maybe the presence of Michael Bullock. If he comes in, we'll catch him up on what he missed. If not, then we'll hopefully have him back with us on Tuesday night for Ridiculously Raw. 32 teams, letter grades as we always do. We're not going to waste too much time. Let's dive right on in. We got much to discuss, so let's start it off right here and now. First team up, the Arizona Cardinals. And here are their draft selections. With the third overall pick in the NFL draft, they selected Jeremiah Love, running back from Notre Dame. Inside-outside linebacker Chase Bisontis from Texas A&M. Quarterback Carson Beck from Miami. Defensive lineman Caleb Proctor from Southeastern Louisiana. Wide receiver Reggie Virgil from Texas Tech. Carson Sharar from Iowa. And Jaden Williams, offensive tackle from Ole Miss. The Arizona Cardinals may have received enticing trade offers for the third overall selection. And according to NFL insider Jordan Schultz, they considered moving down. However, they stayed put and grabbed the best offensive playmaker in the draft to kick off their weekend. Notre Dame running back Jeremiah Love, a special dual threat. He will power Arizona's ground game while giving the offense an identity during what may be a transition year at quarterback. Arizona added more offensive help in the second round, snagging Texas A&M interior lineman Chase Bisontis. A couple of rounds later, it added another pass catcher in Texas Tech's Reggie Virgil. In round 3, they got their developmental quarterback in Miami's Carson Beck. Taking a third-round flyer on Beck was perfectly sensible for the Cardinals. He has NFL-caliber traits and could establish himself as the quarterback of the future with the right opportunities as a rookie. He will have to compete with Jacoby Brissett and Gardner Minshew. If he doesn't, his draft position will not prevent Arizona from dipping into a talented 2027 quarterback pool. The Cardinals have not identified their quarterback of the future just yet. Excuse me. But they did a nice job of setting the table for whoever it might be over draft weekend. So with all that, my letter grade for the Arizona Cardinals is going to be a B+. B+ is my grade for the Arizona Cardinals. Not much more to say. Good old MF Michael Fletcher, come on in. The first sign of the NFL of a new NFL season starts with the NFL draft, and the first of our 32 teams here and now, Arizona, my grade B+. What says you?
Unfortunately, Anthony, I hate to do this right out of the gate, but I disagree. The Cardinals had a boom or bust draft that could set them up for success or for several years moving back in the dormant as the doormat of the NFC West. Jeremiah Love is an excellent player, but drafting him third, making him the 7th highest paid player in the league without a quarterback or an elite offensive line around him is just simply a horrible move. Now, they did draft an offensive lineman with their second round pick and Carson Beck in the third. Those two hit. The line and the quarterback could look a lot different as Beck even though he's got plenty of red flags around his game, could be the guy, whatever it may be. Even though the best pick would have been Caleb Proctor, is a gamble. I just feel like an elite pass rusher would have been exactly what it did. Overall, the Cardinals get a pretty mid draft grade now, on depending on how these gambles do turn out. That grade could only go up in the next few years. Unfortunately, Anthony, I can give this a C plus for the Arizona Cardinals. So it is all yours.
Okay, next team up is the Atlanta Falcons, and here are their draft selections. Cornerback, Avian Terrell, Clemson. Wide receiver, Zachariah Branch, Georgia. Linebacker, Kendall Daniels, Oklahoma. Defensive tackle, Ontario Thompson, Washington. Linebacker, Harold Perkins Jr. from LSU. And offensive tackle, Ethan Onyenwa. It doesn't say where he went, but nonetheless, those are the draft selections of the Atlanta Falcons. MF, what is your grade?
Ethan Onyenwa is from Ohio State. Yes, just to clarify on that part.
All right.
Look, Avian Terrell joining his brother as the top cornerback target for the Falcons is one of the best stories in the 2026 draft. Getting him in the second round was a steal, actually, even. So without a first-round pick, they did pretty well across the board. None of the picks are horrible, although Onyenwa wasn't really a starter at The Ohio State University. But Zachariah Branch pick is an intriguing one. With his pure speed, he's bubble screen merchant in college as well. That could work in the NFL. But but he could find another gear in his game. There's a chance he could be a real weapon. All in all, it wasn't a bad weekend for the Falcons, but they haven't gotten any true playmakers or guys that would be big-time starters. Maybe Avian Terrell may be the exception to the rule, but I'm kind of feeling not so much. I hate to do it again, but I got to give it another C+ for the Atlanta Falcons. So, Anthony, it's yours.
The Atlanta Falcons didn't have a selection on opening night due to last year's draft day trade to acquire edge rusher James Pierce Jr. As a result, new general manager Ian Cunningham and new head coach Kevin Stefanski didn't get to make their first draft choices until day 2. With their first pick in the draft, the Falcons grabbed Avian Terrell, brother of current Atlanta starter AJ Terrell. Many considered the younger Terrell a first-round prospect, and he should push for early playing time. Atlanta added a promising complementary receiver in Georgia's Zachariah Branch, another home run hitter who had a 4.35 second 40-yard dash. Branch will help Stefanski create offensive mismatches. Fourth-round linebacker Kendall Daniels is a promising prospect who should compete for playing time in a special teams role as a rookie. The Falcons simply didn't have a ton of draft capital, and they did a decent job of adding 2 potential starters in Terrell and Branch, while finding some nice depth pieces on day 3. Small disagreement here. You said C+. I'm right there with you. Solid C. Solid C is my grade for the Atlanta Falcons. Next up is the Baltimore Ravens, and here are their selections. Bear with me, there's quite a few. Inside-outside linebacker, Olivaviga Ioni from Penn State. Edge, Zion Young from Missouri. Wide receiver, Jacoby Lane, USC. Wide receiver, Elijah Surratt from the national champion Indiana Hoosiers. Tight end, Matthew Hibner out of SMU. Cornerback, Chandler Rivers from Duke. Tight end, Josh Cuevas from Alabama. Running back, Adam Randall, Clemson. Punter, Ryan Eckley from Michigan State. Defensive lineman, Rayshawn Benny from Michigan. And inside-outside linebacker, Evan Bjornsson from Northwestern. The Baltimore Ravens just seem to have a knack for staying put and allowing their perfect early draft target fall to them. This year, Baltimore had 2 terrific prospects available who matched needs at number 14, Penn State interior lineman Olivaviga Ioni and Miami edge rusher Ruben Bain Jr. The Ravens opted to bolster their offensive line with their first selection. And getting the top-ranked interior lineman, and making sure that a lot of mock drafters got at least one mid-round selection right. Baltimore then got its edge defender on day 2, landing Missouri's Zion Young. He will fill an immediate need on the defensive side of the ball. The Ravens then added a much-needed complementary receiver in Jacoby Lane later on Friday evening. General manager Eric DeCosta continued to hit home runs on day 3. Chandler Rivers could wind up starting before the end of his rookie season. Matthew Hibner and Josh Cuevas will help replace the departed Isaiah Likely and Charlie Kolar, while Adam Randall will be a big physical complement in the backfield. He's 6'3" and 5'8" and 232 pounds. Pairing Randall with Derrick Henry could give Baltimore an unmatched ability to wear down opposing defenses. It's all on paper, of course, but it sure feels like the Ravens have had another productive draft. They were one of my winners. A- is my grade for the Baltimore Ravens. MF, what says you?
Yeah, for the first time tonight, we agree. It is indeed an A- for the Baltimore Ravens. The Ravens did what the Ravens do in the 2026 draft. They stayed in their first round spot and they picked one of the can't miss prospects in the class. Then followed up with the edge rusher in the second round, a prospect that was actually 20 spots higher than where he was projected to go. What the Ravens did is super interesting, though. Was the draft 2 huge wide receivers for Lamar Jackson to throw to? And then, none of the picks were perfect. However, they seem that they were able to suit at the value. This draft will definitely help Lamar Jackson. In the name of the game for the franchise is they want to make the Super Bowl. A-, absolutely no doubt about it. Anthony, it's yours.
And now, MF, we move on to the first of our 3 teams. It's my team next. Oh, the Buffalo Bills. And here are our picks. Edge, T.J. Parker, Clemson. Cornerback, Davison Igbonason, Ohio State. Offensive tackle, Jude Bowery, Boston College. Wide receiver, Skylar Bell from Connecticut, UConn. Linebacker, Caleb Elarms Orr, TCU. Safety, Jelon Kilgore, South Carolina. Defensive lineman, Zane Durant from Penn State. Cornerback, Toriano Pride from Missouri. Punter, Tommy Doman Jr. from Florida. And inside-outside linebacker, Armaj Reed Adams from Texas A&M. All right, MF. How did my team do?
Not bad. Not bad. I'll even say it's a B-. I thought they did all right. I loved the Skylar Bell pick in the 4th round. I thought that's going to, I think he's going to be good. But I got to say, Anthony, I got a head scratcher. The edge, T.J. Parker in the 2nd round. I think that might be a liability. I don't know why. I'm not over it. I'm not overly excited for that. And, one other player, and I will say that one other player that I think is going to be an interesting guy that I think you're going to really love is Javon Kilgore from South Carolina, the safety. Yes. I think he may be your best player. So for me, and I know some people is bashing Buffalo. One critic gave Buffalo a D. Like, they crushed the Buffalo Bills. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to give it a B-. Not bad. I thought they did okay. I'm not overly excited for Buffalo, but I think they did fine. They did an okay job, so it's yours.
The Buffalo Bills traded down on opening night, picking up the 28th, 69th, and 167th picks in exchange for the 26th and 91st selections. They traded down again, adding the 125th pick, then traded out of the first round entirely. Buffalo's final deal of opening night saw them exchange the 31st, 69th, and 165th picks for the 35th, 66th, and 101st picks. After moving down and picking up extra capital, the Bills managed to land Clemson edge rusher TJ Parker. The Clemson product was considered by many to be a first-round prospect, and he will fill a need in Buffalo. The Bills recorded just 36 sacks as a team in 2025, and Joey Bosa remains unsigned. Buffalo then traded into round 2, flipping the 66th and 182nd selections for the 62nd pick. The Bills used that selection to bolster their secondary with Ohio State corner Davison Igbinosun. Considering how many times the Bills traded down at the beginning of the draft, they may come away with a surprising amount of early contributors. Skylar Bell has a combination of size. He's 5'11 and 5'8 and 192 pounds, and speed, running a 4.4 second 40-yard dash. That could push him into a starting role as a rookie. Jalen Kilgore was the 6th-ranked safety and a decent-ranked overall prospect. Add in likely starters in Parker and Igbinosun, and the Bills have done an excellent job of maneuvering and adding an impact class. Slight disagreement. Of course, I'm going to be a little biased. I'm going to be biased because it's my team, but not overly biased. I'm going to give them the grade that I feel they deserve, and I believe it's a solid B. Solid B is my grade for my team, for my Buffalo Bills. Next up, we have the Carolina Panthers, and here are their selections. Offensive tackle Monroe Freeling, Georgia. Defensive lineman Lee Hunter from Texas Tech. Wide receiver Chris Brazel II from Tennessee. Cornerback Will Lee III from Texas A&M. Inside-outside linebacker Sam Hecht out of Kansas State. Safety Zakee Wheatley out of Penn State. And linebacker Jackson Kuwach from Miami of Ohio. The Carolina Panthers won the NFC South in 2025 and are now looking to build on their breakthrough campaign. Building around quarterback Bryce Young remains a big part of the process, and Carolina kicked off its draft by bolstering its offensive line. Along with free agent addition Rasheed Walker, Georgia's Monroe Freeling will give the Panthers some insurance at left tackle, while Ikem Ekwonu recovers from a torn patellar tendon. In the long term, Freeling should find a permanent starting role along the line, likely on the right side. Carolina traded up in round 2 to add more help in the trenches. They got aid for their 20th ranked run defense by adding Texas Tech nose tackle Lee Hunter, a surprisingly athletic 318-pound prospect who should quickly clog lanes and reset the line of scrimmage for the Panthers. In round 3, the Panthers got a potential deep threat for Bryce Young and Tennessee's Chris Brazel II. While many recent Tennessee receiver prospects have struggled to translate to the NFL, Brazel's 4.37 speed will help add a new element to Carolina's passing attack. Day 3 brought some strong value for the Panthers, who had a terrific overall draft on paper. Sam Hecht and Zakee Wheatley especially. So there's nothing left for me to say. This was another one of my winners of the draft here. One of my bigger winners of this draft. Solid A for the Carolina Panthers. Excellent draft. MF, your thoughts?
Slight disagreement. I thought they did pretty good. I'm not going to say that they were great, but they did pretty good. The best pick was Monroe Freeling from Georgia, the 19th pick. I thought that was a really good one. I got to say, their most interesting pick, that was the pick that I kind of also liked, was their 5th round pick. I really like Zeke Whitley. I think he's going to bring a lot of fun, a lot of excitement to them. Sorry, I know I'm going to get bashed for this. I didn't like the Chris Brazel pick from Tennessee. And I know one of my friends is a big Tennessee Volunteers. He's probably going to be like, explained. I'll explain in private. I'm not doing it here tonight. No. And Lee Hunter, interesting pick at the 2nd round. Overall, I got to give it a B, solid B. I thought they did all right. So nothing more to say. Anthony, it's yours.
Next up, our dear friend Matt Ward. It's his team, the Chicago Bears, and here are their selections. Safety Dylan Thieneman, Oregon. Inside-outside linebacker Logan Jones from Iowa. Tight end Sam Roosh from Stanford. Wide receiver Xavier Thomas, LSU. Cornerback Malik Muhammad, Texas. linebacker Keyshawn Elliott, Arizona State, and defensive lineman Jordan Vandenberg from Georgia Tech. MF, is it good news or bad news for Matt Ward and the Chicago Bears?
Nah, this is good news. This is actually pretty good news. This was a solid draft for them. I thought they did a really good job. Love the Dylan Tomlinson first pick. I thought that was a great pick for them. I thought they did a really good job. The one pick that I think is going to be very intriguing or very interesting, Xavier Thomas from LSU, the wide receiver. I really like that pick as well. I thought they did really well with that one. 2 picks I'm not so keen on. 1, the Jordan Vandenberg pick in round 6, the defensive tackle. And I wasn't really too keen on the Sam Roush, the tight end in the 3rd. I thought that one, I don't know. I may be a little harsh on it, but it is what it is. But what I will say is this. Chicago did fill their needs in most of their draft, and I thought they did a fine job with it. Overall, I got to give it between a B to a B plus. So no, pretty good, not bad. That's my rating. I'll give it a B plus for the Chicago Bears. Anthony, you're up.
The Chicago Bears parted with both of last year's starting safeties in the offseason. Therefore, it was no surprise when they opened their draft by grabbing Oregon safety Dylan Theinman. The former Duck Star is a do-it-all defender who can become a chess piece on the back end of Dennis Allen's defense. In a draft that didn't, and I'll tell you what, Dylan Theinman's versatile skill set is being underrated as a true 3-down impact defender in the NFL. He can line up anywhere, triggers downhill in a hurry, and gives the coaching staff his all whenever he's on the field. In a draft that didn't also include Caleb Downs, Theinman would be the top-ranked safety. Chicago may have reached for center Logan Jones in round 2. It got a bit better value in blocking tight end Sam Roush and a terrific value in cornerback Malik Muhammad. The Bears also added an unproven but extremely fast receiver in Xavier Thomas, who had a 4.28 second 40-yard dash. He could be a gadget player early in his career, but he'll give Coach Ben Johnson some creative offensive options. Did the Bears nail every selection? Perhaps not, but they should feel good about the overall class they constructed. And MF, this is one of the rare times we actually agree here. I too am going to give a B plus grade for the Chicago Bears. Next up, we go from one of our dear friends, a longtime dear friend, to one of our newest dear friends and one of the newest members of our broadcast family. Trash Panda, Jake Turner. I hope you're listening and watching, buddy, because it's your team next, the Cincinnati Bengals. And here are their selections. Edge, Cassius Howell, Texas A&M. Cornerback, Takario Davis, Washington. Inside-outside linebacker, Connor Lew, Auburn. Wide receiver, Colby Young, Georgia. Inside-outside linebacker, Brian Parker II from Duke. Tight end, Jack Endries, Texas. And defensive lineman, Landon Robinson from Navy. The Cincinnati Bengals originally had the 10th overall pick in this year's draft, but they traded it for standout defensive tackle Dexter Lawrence. While the move may only net Cincinnati a handful of years of Lawrence's prime career, it's a gamble that could pay off in the short term. The Bengals need defensive help. They were not guaranteed to get an elite prospect at number 10, and there was not an interior defender in this class with Lawrence's ceiling. With their first pick of the draft, the Bengals stuck with their defensive game plan. Cassius Howell is a potent, explosive edge rusher who should help Cincinnati in its efforts to replace Trey Hendrickson. Cincinnati added more defensive help and a big 6'4" physical corner when they grabbed Washington's Takario Davis in round 3. The Bengals added some intriguing depth pieces on day 3, but the strength of this class is the 3 defenders added with the team's first 3 selections. Lawrence, Howell, and Davis should walk into starting roles and should significantly boost the defense that ranked 31st overall last season. My grade for Mr. Turner and his Bengals, exactly the same as I had it for Matt Ward and his Chicago Bears. It's another B+. B+ is the grade for Jake Turner and his Cincinnati Bengals. MF, good news or bad news for the Trash Panda?
Slight disagreement. But it's a little lower. It's a solid B. But
Okay.
You're absolutely right. The best pick of the draft, I believe, was the Cassius Howell move at the edge at 42. I wasn't very keen on the Dario Davis from the cornerback from Washington. However, I thought they did a fine job, and like you said, they got Dexter Lawrence. That was a massive move for Cincinnati. They needed a move like that. So it kind of negated anything that was bad. So I thought they did a fine job. That's why I'm giving it a solid B. So Anthony, it's yours.
Okay. We move on now to the other Ohio team, the Cleveland Browns, and here are their selections. Offensive tackle, Spencer Fano, Utah. Wide receiver, Kevin Concepcion, Texas A&M. Wide receiver, Denzel Boston, Washington. Safety, Emmanuel McNeil Warren, Toledo. Offensive tackle, Austin Barber, Florida. Inside-outside linebacker, Parker Brailsford, Alabama. Linebacker, Justin Jefferson, Alabama. Tight end, Joe Royer, Cincinnati. Quarterback, Taylon Green, Arkansas. And tight end, Carson Ryan, BYU. MF, your grade for the Cleveland Browns.
Anthony, earlier in the show, you said that you had one of your winners. And I believe you mentioned it was Atlanta or Baltimore.
It was Baltimore and Carolina, my early winners so far.
Baltimore and Carolina are your early winners. Okay. This is one of my early winners.
Yes.
This team did an unbelievable job handling the draft. And they did incredible. All the picks, they near crushed on every single one of them. Spencer Fanu was an amazing first pick. I think there's no doubt about it. Then doubling up to get Denzel Boston, and a Concepcion was unbelievable. Like you just gave basically Shedeur Sanders everything he needs. You gave him 2 elite wide receivers. You gave him, exactly the offensive guy with Fanu. So you already have setting him up for success. Now it's put up a shut up for Shedeur Sanders. A+, the big winners of the draft, the Cleveland Browns. Anthony, it's yours.
The Cleveland Browns entered draft weekend with 2 glaring needs: offensive tackle and wide receiver. General manager Andrew Berry managed to trade down, picking up 3rd and 5th round picks in the process, and still make Spencer Fano the first tackle off the board. It was a sound move for Cleveland, which would have been happy with Fano at number 6. With their second first-round pick acquired in last year's draft day Travis Hunter trade, the Browns got their receiver in Texas A&M's Casey Concepcion. Cleveland came back in round 2 to grab Washington wide receiver Denzel Boston, a prospect many linked to the Browns in round 1. The 6'3" and 5'8", 212-pound Boston will add a big physical element to the receiver room and should serve as a fine complement to Concepcion. The Browns then flipped the 70th and 107th picks for the 58th and 152nd picks. At the bottom of round 2, they snapped up Toledo safety Emmanuel McNeil Warren, another prospect viewed as a borderline first-rounder. Cleveland then traded out and then back into round 3 to end up with Florida tackle Austin Barber. The Browns largely focused on depth on day 3, though tight end Joe Royer could see early playing time as a complement to Harold Fannin Jr., and quarterback Taylon Green will add a new wrinkle to the QB competition. However, Cleveland's weekend was highlighted by the fact that 4 potential starters were added on Thursday and Friday. This is another one of my winners. Solid A for the Cleveland Browns. Well done. Next up, the Dallas Cowboys. And here are their selections. Safety, Caleb Downs, Ohio State. Edge, Malachi Lawrence, UCF. Edge, Jayshon Barham, Michigan. Offensive tackle, Drew Shelton, Penn State. Cornerback, Devin Moore, Florida. Defensive lineman, LT Overton, Alabama. And wide receiver, Anthony Smith, East Carolina. The Dallas Cowboys traded a pair of fifth-round picks to move up one spot on opening night. That bold move landed them Ohio State safety Caleb Downs, the top-ranked prospect at any position. Dallas used its second first-round pick to trade down and pick up a pair of fourth-round selections. After trading down, the Cowboys scooped up a developmental edge defender in Central Florida's Malachi Lawrence. While Lawrence wasn't widely viewed as a legitimate first-round prospect, he has an impressive ceiling and generated buzz during the pre-draft process. He has the tape to match with the potential to become a high-quality pass rusher in the league. Dallas did not have a second-round pick because of the Quinnen Williams trade, but it added another developmental edge defender in Michigan's Jayshon Barham late on Friday. On day 3, the Cowboys added another complementary piece to their defensive line rotation in LT Overton. Devin Moore could push for early playing time, while Drew Shelton is a developmental tackle who should not see the field for some time. It would have been nice to see the Cowboys add more pro-ready talent to their 30th ranked defense, but the selection of Downs at the top will make an immediate impact. Solid B is my grade for the Dallas Cowboys. MF, your thoughts?
This is one of our former colleagues' teams. He loves the Dallas Cowboys, and I gotta say, I think he's going to be very happy with the grade I'm about to give him, because I thought Dallas was one of the winners. I also felt like the Cowboys did. You know, I thought the Malachi Lawrence was a great pick. High ceiling, high value, more than anything else. I will also say this. The Caleb Downs move. And oh, by the way, this was because of the Miami Dolphins. This trade happened. They traded with Miami to make this move happen. So Dallas went up, Miami went down, and that led to some other wrangling, some other stuff that went down for them to make the move to get Caleb Downs. And like you said, Anthony, the best player in the entire draft. I thought that was absolutely great. I think the only bad pick I like, well, there was two that I wasn't really too fond. Actually, no. The only bad one was the Drew Shelton one in the 4th pick. You know, I think that was a developmental pick. I think that might be a little bit of a reach more than anything else. But I also like the Jayshon Barner from Michigan. I like that pick. I think that edge is better than Shelton. But what I will say is this. For Dallas, we see you. And, you know, I got to say it. With the 7 picks they had, the 3 days that they did, I don't want to start talking Super Bowl talk. I'm not going to do that. But I will say this. For my former colleague, Dallas not only is going to make the playoffs next year, they got a very good chance of being the NFC Eastern Division champions.
Whoa.
I'll go as far to say that. Yeah, I'm putting my neck out right now to say I think the Cowboys could actually win the division in 2026. I think they might be the division champions. I think they could win the NFC East with the moves that they made. Plus, obviously, they still got to do some moves in free agency. And then, you know, there's a lot of moves that they could still do. But I'm penciling in Dallas as the favorite right now to win the NFC East. So it's an A for the Dallas Cowboys. Anthony, it's back to you.
Okay. We move on to another favorite team of someone very close to us. This time we're going the family route. And we're going to talk about Uncle Ed. Uncle Ed's team, the Denver Broncos. And here are their selections. Defensive lineman Tyler Onyedem, Texas A&M. Running back, Jonah Coleman, Washington. Offensive tackle, Cage Casey, Boise State. Tight end, Justin Joly, North Carolina State. Safety, Miles Scott, Illinois. Tight end, Dallin Bentley, Utah. And linebacker, Red Murdoch, out of the University of Buffalo. All right, MF. Good news or bad news for Uncle Ed and his Denver Broncos?
I will say this. I've been reading a lot of different reviews for Denver, and I honestly say they are all over the place. They're not consistent with Denver. You know, there's some people giving them B. There's some that's giving them a B. You know, one crushed them, gave them a C plus. But I'm kind of inclined to give them, you know, more like a B minus. I'm kind of in the middle here. They did pretty good, not bad. I kind of feel like they could have been a little better in certain areas, but I'm not going to crush them too hard. I thought they did a fine job with their drafting. To me, their best player was Red Murdoch. Oh, by the way, Mr. Irrelevant 2026.
Right.
Red Murdoch, Mr. Irrelevant. So congratulations on that, my friend. The other player I did like was their Tyler Owatman. I think he's going to be a great, a clean rotational development guy. That, you know, he could actually see the starting lineup right at the very beginning. So I think that could be good for him. So like I said, I'm going to give it a B minus. I thought he did a fine job with the draft, and like I said, to me, normally I don't really give that much love about it, but dude, when you get Red Murdoch, Mr. Irrelevant, I mean, you know, the name itself gives it a B. The name itself gives it a B. So I got nothing more to say. It's yours, Florio.
Oh my goodness. All right. I gotta tell it like it is here. It's going to be a slight disagreement on the grade, but I'll explain here. The Denver Broncos originally had the 30th pick in round 1, but they traded it for wide receiver Jalen Waddle. It was a bold but sensible move given Denver's lack of glaring needs in draft positioning. The Broncos needed another difference maker in their receiving core, and they weren't guaranteed to get a top pass-catching prospect at number 30. It turns out that Denver could have snagged Indiana's Omar Cooper or Washington's Denzel Boston, but the Broncos should get several good years out of the 27-year-old Waddle. Denver also traded out of round 2, picking up the 182nd selection to move from number 62 to number 66. Finally, the Broncos made their first selection at the top of round 3, and it was a reach. Texas A&M's Tyler Onyedum has intriguing potential, but you know, he was not highly ranked. I mean, ideally, he'll eventually develop into a replacement for John Franklin Myers. Jonah Coleman may make a more immediate impact as part of the backfield rotation. Justin Joly is a talented tight end who can be developed behind Evan Engram. The Broncos didn't have many holes, and if we count Jalen Waddle as part of the class, they did a fair job of addressing them in the draft. You said B minus, slight disagreement. C plus is my grade for the Denver Broncos. And we move on to my brother Nick's team, the Detroit Lions, and here are their selections. Offensive tackle, Blake Miller, Clemson. Edge, Derek Moore, Michigan. Linebacker, Jimmy Rolder, also from Michigan. Cornerback, Keith Abney II, Arizona State. Wide receiver, Kendrick Law from Kentucky. Defensive lineman, Skylar Gill Howard. Skylar Gill Howard. Don't know where he went because I don't see a college listed. And defensive lineman Tyree West from Tennessee. The Detroit Lions were widely expected to prioritize offensive tackle after partnering with Taylor Decker early in the offseason. It turns out that Clemson's Blake Miller has long been a target of Detroit. General manager Brad Holmes told reporters he probably has no idea, but we've been watching Blake for about 3 years now, and he has gotten better every single year. And that's what makes you really excited about a player like that. With Miller in tow, there should be no question that Penei Sewell will move to left tackle to replace Decker. On day 2, the Lions flipped a 4th-round pick to move up in round 2 and take Michigan defensive lineman Derek Moore. The in-state product should add a much-needed complement to star edge rusher Aiden Hutchinson. Detroit added some intriguing defensive depth on day 3 in linebacker Jimmy Rolder and cornerback Keith Abney II. In all, General Manager Brad Holmes did a fine job of addressing key needs early and filling out the depth chart late. Solid B for the Detroit Lions. So, MF, your grade for the Detroit Lions. Solid B for me. All right, looks like MF probably stepped away for a moment, so we'll await his return. So, but yeah, solid B. Solid B is my grade for the Detroit Lions. So we'll see how they bounce back after a very disappointing season last year, where they were one of the as you all know, a couple of years ago, they had the best record. They were tied with Kansas City for the best overall record in the NFL in 2024, going 15-2. And then unfortunately they were one and done. And this past season, they didn't even make the playoffs. So we shall see how the Detroit Lions do when it comes to can they bounce back and get back to that to being one of those favorites in the NFC. So we shall see. My grade is solid B. Solid draft for the Lions, and can't wait to see how they look next season. So, all right, MF is ready. So, solid B. My grade for the Detroit Lions. MF, what says you?
For maybe the second or third time tonight, Anthony, we are actually in a total agreement. It is a solid B for the Detroit Lions, and yeah, I with everything that went down, like I said, my favorite pick was Blake Miller, the offensive tackle from Clemson at number 17. Really love that pick. I really think that's going to be a really good help. The other pick I actually liked was Keith Aboy, the cornerback in the 5th round. I thought that was also a really good pick. I hate to be the one to kind of give a little bit of some criticism. The only pick I wasn't really too wild about was the Derek Moore. And I know, I can't believe I'm doing this. I'm crushing my own family because he's from the Michigan Wolverines. I just don't know why. And don't get me wrong. Dan Campbell loves his defense and everything else, but there was a few better picks at defensive end on the board that they could have gone with, and I kind of felt like this may be a bad pick, that this may hurt them more than anything else. And the reason why I said that is because they had Zion Young and they had Gabe Jacques, and they were both on the board, and I felt like this was a reach. So it's a solid B for me. So I'm with you, and Anthony, it's yours.
Next up is the Green Bay Packers, and here are their selections. Cornerback, Brandon Cece, South Carolina. Defensive lineman, Chris McClellan, Missouri. Edge, Danny Dennis Sutton, Penn State. Inside-outside linebacker, Jagger Burton, Kentucky. Cornerback, Domani Jackson, Alabama. And kicker, Trey Smack from Florida. MF, your grade for the Green Bay Packers.
Not bad. B-. I thought they did a pretty good job. I thought it was a solid draft for them. I love the Chris McLaughlin move. I thought that was a very good draft pick for them. That was my favorite pick out of the draft. The other one I would also say that I also liked was Brandon Chase from South Carolina, the corner from South Carolina. I thought that was also another solid pick. Two picks I kind of felt like weren't so great. The Daniel Davis Sutton, the edge from, because I kind of feel like he's very inconsistent. And then I wasn't really too fond of the Trey Smack, the kicker from Florida. Not really too wild about that move either. So for me, B- for the Green Bay Packers. Anthony, go.
The Green Bay Packers gave up their first-round pick as part of last year's Micah Parsons trade. The Packers and their fans should be thrilled with that outcome, given the lack of truly elite prospects in the second half of round one. With their first pick in the draft, the Packers grabbed South Carolina cornerback Brandon Cece, a raw but gifted prospect. Cece could develop into a much-needed starter within his first couple of seasons. Green Bay then traded up in round 3, surrendering the 84th and 160th picks for the 77th selection to land Missouri's Chris McClellan. While McClellan may be a rotational defender early, he will help reload a defensive front that saw Kenny Clark and Rashawn Gary traded away over the last calendar year. Danny Dennis Sutton should carve out an early role as a rotational pass rusher. Jagger Burton was a very low-ranked prospect. He was like a 271st ranked prospect, but he's an intriguing trade space pick who will provide developmental depth at center. Ideally, Trey Smack will provide some stability on special teams. Considering the Packers didn't have a first-round pick, and that an elite player in Micah Parsons is the reason why Green Bay should be pleased with its 2026 haul. Slight disagreement. You said B-. I'm going to give it a solid B for the Green Bay Packers. So next up is the Houston Texans. And with their selections, they selected inside-outside linebacker Keelan Rutledge from Georgia Tech, defensive lineman Caden McDonald, Ohio State, tight end Marlon Klein, Michigan, inside-outside linebacker Fabichi Nwawu, Oklahoma, linebacker Wade Woodaz, Clemson, safety Kamari Ramsey, USC, wide receiver Lewis Bond from Boston College, and linebacker Aiden Fisher from your college football playoff national champion Indiana Hoosiers. The Houston Texans have spent the past couple of off seasons reshaping their offensive line. They made a bold move on opening night by trading up to land Georgia Tech interior lineman Keelan Rutledge. Oh, by the way, that pick courtesy of my Buffalo Bills. You're welcome, Houston. Houston surrendered the 28th, 69th, and 167th picks to get numbers 26 and 91. Along with free agent additions Braden Smith and Wyatt Teller, Rutledge should help give the Texans a physical identity in the trenches. The Texans traded up again in round 2, flipping a third-round pick for a fourth-rounder. In order to secure Ohio State defensive tackle Caden McDonald, many expected the former Buckeye to hear his name called on opening night. Houston also added offensive help in the second round, adding raw but promising tight end Marlon Klein. Rutledge and McDonald have the potential to be early starters, while Keyline and Fabichi and Nwawu could be key pieces of the offensive future. Getting Kamari Ramsey in round 3 was an outright steal. Overall, Nick Casario and company did a solid job of marrying positional need with prospects who fit the team's desired identity. Solid B for the Houston Texans. All right, we previously lost MF, but we got him back in now. So solid B, my grade for the Houston Texans. MF, what says you?
Yeah, for some reason I accidentally hit the wrong button and dropped myself right off the call. That stinks. Agreement. No, agreed. B for the Houston. I love the McDonald, the defensive tackle from Ohio State. Again, wasn't really too keen on their second pick, which was Martin Klein from Michigan. Because I think it was because they didn't really need a tight end. I kind of felt like, they could have gone with somebody at better value with that. But, it is what it is. I'm not going to be too angry about that pick. All in all, I thought they did a fine job with it. And yeah, I got to give it another solid B for them. So Anthony, it's yours.
Next up, it's the Indianapolis Colts, and here are their selections. Linebacker, C.J. Allen, Georgia. Safety, A.J. Halsey, LSU. Inside-outside linebacker, Jalen Farmer, Kentucky. Linebacker, Bryce Botcher, Oregon. Edge, George Gums Jr., Florida. Edge, Caden Curry, Ohio State. Running back, Seth McGowan, Kentucky. And wide receiver, Deion Burks, Oklahoma. MF, your grade for the Indianapolis Colts.
They did a pretty good job. I thought they did a solid job. I can give this about a B for me. I think they could have been a little better. I know there's a couple of people that are giving them like A minuses. I'm not really inclined to say that they had an A level draft, but like a solid B is definitely good enough for me. I that's kind of where I'm going with this. So solid B, Anthony, it's yours.
The Indianapolis Colts gave up their first round pick as part of the Sauce Gardner trade. Given the lack of elite cornerback prospects in this year's draft, after Mansour Delaney was taken 6th overall, the Colts will probably stand by their position. Gardner will only turn 26 in August, and he may prove to be more valuable than prospects who would have been available with Indy's 16th pick, like Oregon tight end Kenyon Sadiq and USC receiver Makai Lemon. General manager Chris Ballard picked up a little extra capital by trading down in round 2, flipping the 47th and 249th picks for the 53rd, 135th, and 237th selections before grabbing Georgia linebacker C.J. Allen. Allen was considered one of the top off-ball linebackers in the 2026 class and should immediately boost Indy's second-level defense. With their second pick on day 2, the Colts added safety A.J. Halsey, another talented defender who should make an early impact. Linebacker Bryce Botcher could also push for early playing time. He and Allen have the potential to reshape Indy's linebacker group, and Jalen Farmer will provide valuable depth along the interior O-line. GM Chris Ballard could have afforded to address the team's need at edge rusher earlier in the draft, but he largely did a good job of adding defensive help without a day 1 selection. B+ is my grade for the Indianapolis Colts. And again, we stay in the AFC South, and we're gonna get, and our next team up is the Jacksonville Jaguars, and here are their selections. Tight end Nate Boerkircher, Texas A&M. Defensive lineman Albert Regis, Texas A&M. Inside-outside linebacker Emmanuel Pregnon, Oregon. Safety Jalen Husky, Maryland. Defensive lineman Wesley Williams, Duke. Tight end Tanner Koziol, Houston. Wide receiver Josh Cameron from Baylor. Wide receiver C.J. Williams, Stanford. Edge Zach Durfee, Washington. And linebacker Parker Hughes, Middle Tennessee State. The Jacksonville Jaguars traded this year's first-round pick as part of last year's draft day deal to land cornerback receiver Travis Hunter. The Jags plan to focus on developing Hunter as a full-time cornerback this year, and if he reaches his elite ceiling, Jacksonville will not mind parting with a late first-rounder in this class to get him. The list of prospects the Jaguars might have found available at number 24 includes Texas A&M receiver Kevin Concepcion, Oregon safety Dylan Theinman, and San Diego State cornerback Chris Johnson. Unfortunately, the Jaguars didn't exactly get great value with their first selection. Texas A&M's Nate Boerkircher is widely viewed as an inline blocking tight end, while he does have some untapped potential as a pass catcher. The selection does look a little better when paired with day 3 pick and pass-catching tight end Tanner Koziol. The Jags reached again for undersized defensive tackle Albert Regis. However, they got much better value with Oregon lineman Emmanuel Pregnon and Maryland safety Jalen Husky. Jalen Husky, the biggest sleeper at the safety position in this class. Josh Cameron, who should give Trevor Lawrence another capable target. He represents one of the better values the Jags uncovered over draft weekend. Of course, it is clear that GM James Gladstone doesn't care about perceived value. Based on value, though, and the fact that Hunter's rookie season largely disappointed, it's hard to love his approach. I have not mentioned anything about this once tonight, but I think this is definitely going to be the first time I'm going to mention something like this. One of my losers of the draft right here. This was one of my losers, if not my biggest loser of this draft. Solid D for the Jacksonville Jaguars. I did not like this draft at all. So, some good prospects here and there, yes, but not really feeling it. Sorry. Solid D, my grade for the Jacksonville Jaguars. One of my losers of this draft. So, MF, I wouldn't be surprised if there ends up being a disagreement over this, but solid D is my grade for the Jags.
All right. Well, yes, there's a disagreement, but you're there. You're in the we're kind of in the same wavelength. I'm a letter up. I'm giving it a C+. Yes, you did say everything correct. And I will say that they definitely did not deliver. And I really didn't like a lot of their picks, but I kind of felt a little more better with it than anything else. So I give this a C plus, but it is yours, Anthony.
Well, there's as I'm looking over my grade notes here, there's a tie. There's a tie for my biggest losers of this NFL draft. The Jacksonville Jaguars are one of them. There's another
Yeah.
team that's right there with them. We'll get to them in a little bit. Next up, it is the you want to talk about how the mighty have fallen. The Kansas City Chiefs. Oh my
Mm.
goodness, what in the world happened to them last year? My goodness. Here are their selections. Cornerback, Mansour Delaney, LSU. Defensive lineman, Peter Woods from Clemson. Edge, R. Mason Thompson, Oklahoma. R. Mason Thomas, Oklahoma. Cornerback, Jadon Kennedy, Oregon. Running back, Emmett Johnson, Nebraska. Wide receiver, Cyrus Allen, Cincinnati. And quarterback, Garrett Nussmeier, LSU. I believe this one goes
It
to
is me.
MF. So,
It is me.
yep. All right, MF. The Kansas City Chiefs, the biggest disappointment in the NFL last season. Of course, they were obviously one of the favorites to have another Super Bowl run, but
Yep.
how the mighty have fallen. They ended up only 6-11. They needed to have a good draft. So how did they do?
They did. No, they turned it around. And that's bad news for everybody in the AFC because I kind of feel like they are back.
Yep.
Because, with them, the Mansour Delane pick was absolutely flawless. Like, that's exactly their best player. There's no argument on that one. The one I also liked was the fact that they also got Mason Thomas. I thought that was also a great pick for them. An interesting pick was Peter Woods. The one criticism that I will have for Kansas City is why on earth did you wait to the 5th round to get a wide receiver? Like, that's the one argument I'm going to have with Kansas City is why on earth, when you're so depleted in that position, why did you not get a top receiver I mean, look, you could have gotten one of the top receivers with the number 6 pick. They were there for the taking. And you decided to go defense instead. That's the only criticism I have for Kansas City. I got to give it an A. I liked it. I enjoyed it. I thought they did really good. If they would have gotten a wide receiver earlier, I think they would have been an A plus and one of the big winners. But I can only give them an A. So, Anthony, it's yours.
After trading Trent McDuffie and losing Jalen Watson in free agency, the Chiefs needed to reload their cornerback group. They traded up to ensure they got the cleanest corner prospect in the draft, giving the Cleveland Browns the 74th and 141st picks in order to move from number 9 to number 6. Mansour Delaney should quickly fill Kansas City's need for a number 1 perimeter corner. Over the next few years, having him on a rookie contract will likely be more financially valuable to the Chiefs than keeping McDuffie on a significant second deal would have been. The Chiefs continued to address their defense late in round 1. Using the first pick they acquired in the McDuffie deal to grab defensive lineman Peter Woods. The 6'3", 298-pound defender should help shore up Kansas City's defensive front right away. Kansas City added another promising piece to its front when it grabbed R. Mason Thomas in round 2. He should quickly add a speed rushing element to Steve Spagnuolo's defensive front. General Manager Brett Veach focused on value and roster depth on day 3. Wideout Cyrus Allen could prove to be especially valuable. He should bring speed and playmaking ability to the passing attack early. The Chiefs took a targeted approach to plugging holes over draft weekend, and while they sacrificed some mid-round selections, their roster is much more complete than it was a few days ago. Solid B. Slight disagreement. It's a solid B for me when it comes to the Kansas City Chiefs. We're going to stay in the AFC West, and we're going to move on to the Las Vegas Raiders. And with their selections, they selected, as expected, with the number 1 overall pick, the quarterback Fernando Mendoza, the Heisman Trophy winner from the national champion Indiana Hoosiers. They also selected cornerback Traydon Stukes from Arizona, edge Kieron Crawford, Alabama, or Auburn rather. Traydon Stukes is from Arizona, by the way. Edge Kieron Crawford, Auburn. Inside-outside linebacker Trey Zoon III, Texas A&M. Cornerback Jermod McCoy, Tennessee. Running back Mike Washington Jr., Arkansas. Safety Dalton Johnson, Arizona. Cornerback Hezekiah Masses, California. Wide receiver Malik Benson, Oregon. Defensive tackle Brandon Cleveland, NC State. As expected, the Las Vegas Raiders kicked off their draft with Indiana quarterback Fernando Mendoza. It was an unsurprising pick and the logical one. The Raiders needed a long-term answer at quarterback, and Mendoza was, without question, the safest signal caller in the class. The reigning Heisman winner and national champion has just about every quality a team could want in a signal caller. He's a franchise quarterback at the next level. Those the words from legendary ESPN draft analyst Mel Kiper Jr. The Raiders opened day 2 by trading down 2 spots and flipping an early 4th rounder for a late 3rd round pick. After moving down, Las Vegas added some much-needed cornerback help in the form of Arizona's Traydon Stukes. A late riser in the draft process, Stukes will bring versatility and playmaking ability to Las Vegas' secondary. Las Vegas addressed another defensive need with 3rd-round edge rusher Kieron Crawford. The Auburn product should provide immediate depth behind Max Crosby and Kwity Paye. Getting Jermod McCoy in round 4 represents tremendous value. The Tennessee product carries health questions, but is a first-round talent. General Manager John Spytek continued to make sensible picks late in the draft. Mike Washington Jr. is a lightning-quick runner who will be an excellent change of pace back behind Ashton Genty. Malik Benson will add a speed element to Las Vegas' receiving core. It was a strong overall weekend for the Raiders, highlighted by the addition of their new franchise quarterback. I could go as far as to say they may be my winners of the draft here. A+ is my grade for the Las Vegas Raiders. MF, how do you follow that? Vegas, my winners of the 2026 NFL Draft, A+. Mainly because you got the number 1 overall pick. You got Fernando Mendoza. We saw the magic he gave us in Indiana. And I don't know if the Raiders are going to be all the way back, but we shall wait and find out. So, but Mendoza, the quarterback of the future, there is no question about that. So, MF stepped away once again, so we will.
Sorry.
Right.
Okay. So I know we were talking about the Raiders, and I will say they did good. I gotta say it. It's an A. I gotta give it an A rating. I thought they did a very good job. I like their draft picks. Obviously, when you get Fernando Mendoza, the number 1 overall pick, you're already off to a great start. Jerron McCoy is going to be the wild card on this one. Is he going to deliver? I don't know. Daquan Stokes, I actually like that pick too. I really thought he did really well with that one too. The only ones I wasn't really fond of, and there's 2 players. Dalton Johnson, the safety from Arizona, and I wasn't really high on Mike Williams or Mike Washington, the running back from the running back either. Other than that, it's an A. I thought they did a really good job. So, Anthony, it's yours.
Once again, in the AFC West, we have the Los Angeles Chargers. With their selections, they selected edge Akeem Mesidor, Miami. Inside-outside linebacker Jake Slaughter, Florida. Wide receiver Brennan Thompson, Mississippi State. Offensive tackle Travis Burke, Memphis. Safety Genesis Smith, Arizona. Defensive lineman Nick Barrett, South Carolina. Inside-outside linebacker Logan Taylor, Boston College. And inside-outside linebacker Alex Harkey, Oregon. MF, your grade for the LA Chargers.
B plus, solid B plus, and that's not even a hesitation. B plus for the Chargers. I thought they did a really good job with this draft. I really loved the Akeem Mesidor of the edge from Miami. I was kind of hoping he would have been a Miami Dolphin, but I'm not going to be too mad about it. I also like the Nick Barlett move. I thought that was the defensive tackle as well. I thought they did a really good job. The only criticism I have is the Jake Slaughter from Florida. I'm not really too fond on that pick. And the other one I would say is Genesis Smith, the safety in the 5th round. Because I got a little concerned about his tackling ability more than anything else. Me being the defensive guy, the one thing you got to do is you got to get tackles on the open space. And the problema is I don't think the open space is really good. So that's where I got the issue more than anything else. Other than that, I think it's a solid. It is solid B plus for the Chargers. Anthony, it's yours.
The Los Angeles Chargers opened their draft by grabbing pass rusher Akeem Mesidor. The former Hurricane was a logical choice, as Odafe Oweh departed in free agency and Khalil Mack turned 35 in February. While Mesidor is an older prospect at 25, he has flashed high-level production, 12.5 sacks last year, and should provide an immediate boost to a playoff contender. LA traded down in round 2, getting the 131st and 202nd picks to go from 55 to 63. At the bottom of the round, the Chargers addressed their another need with Florida interior lineman Jake Slaughter. Late round picks Logan Taylor and Alex Harkey will give the Chargers some more darts to throw at their interior O-line. Genesis Smith is a versatile DB who should compete for early playing time, while Brennan Thompson will add some much-needed speed to the receiver group. Thompson ran a 4.26-second 40-yard dash at the scouting combine. The Chargers reached a bit for Slaughter, but he and Mesidor should help fill the 2 biggest holes on LA's roster. This team won't have many starting jobs up for grabs over the summer, but GM Joe Ortiz did a solid job of adding late prospects who can stick on the roster. Solid B is my grade for the Los Angeles Chargers. We move on to the other LA team, the Los Angeles Rams. And with their selections, they selected quarterback Ty Simpson, Alabama. Tight end Max Clare, Ohio State. Offensive lineman Keegan Trost, Missouri. Wide receiver C.J. Daniels, Miami. And defensive lineman Tim Keenan III, Alabama. The LA Rams traded their first-round pick for Chiefs cornerback Trent McDuffie early in the offseason. However, they opened their draft with the 13th overall selection thanks to last year's draft day trade with Atlanta. Les Snead used that selection to pull off one of the biggest early shockers of the draft. Matthew Stafford remains LA's quarterback of the present. Ty Simpson is now the Rams' quarterback of the future. While he has just 1 year of starting experience, he showed plenty of potential during his 2025 campaign. Simpson flashed potential to be an NFL starting quarterback with a savvy, polished skill set that translates well into NFL offenses. With Stafford set to turn 39 in February, working out a succession plan does make sense. Of course, it's fair to wonder if LA would have been better served by drafting a player who would help them chase a Super Bowl this upcoming season. Simpson probably won't help the Rams in 2026, and second-round tight end Max Clare might not either. He's a promising prospect, but will begin as another option to a crowded tight end room. Fellow day 2 pick Keegan Trost will provide depth at tackle. Snead has done a good job of finding receiver talent late in the draft. C.J. Daniels has the size at 6'2" and 202 pounds and skills to be another gem. LA's draft strategy makes sense from a long-term perspective. While it's surprising the Rams didn't put a little more focus on maximizing their chances of winning it all in 2026, the McDuffie trade does play to that goal. With all that, I can only give the Rams a solid C. Solid C is my grade for the Los Angeles Rams. So, MF, your thoughts on the LA Rams? Solid C is my grade. What says you?
All right. Look, when it comes to the Rams, uh, look, CJ Daniels from Miami was their best pick. Okay, can I just talk about the elephant in the room, Anthony?
Hmm.
What on earth were they thinking drafting Ty Simpson 13th in the draft? Like, why?
Why?
What? Yeah, exactly. I I don't want to crush them, and I'm not going to. But I felt like this was a C. I mean, you got Keegan Cross. That's good. Because he's a good O line guy. He's gonna work well with that offense. But dude, I don't understand why they needed to draft a quarterback that high, and especially that early. They didn't need it. It's like you just made a mess of it by now you kind of put Matthew Stafford in an unwinnable right now. It's like, what the hell? I don't know, man. I honestly I didn't like the move. I did not like the move. So, Anthony, it is all yours. It is a C for me for the Rams.
All right, MF, are you ready?
I'm ready.
It's your team. It's your team. The Miami Dolphins. And oh my God, they had a very busy draft. I think they had more selections than any team.
Yes, they did.
I see a whole ton of picks here.
11.
Listen very carefully. There's going to be a quiz after this. Here we go. Here we go. I'm only reading this off once. Offensive tackle, Caden Proctor, Alabama. Cornerback, Chris Johnson, San Diego State. Linebacker, Jacob Rodriguez, Texas Tech. Wide receiver, Caleb Douglas, also Texas Tech. Tight end, Will Kachmarek, Ohio State. Wide receiver, Chris Bell, Louisville. Linebacker, Trey Moore, Texas. Linebacker, Kyle Lewis, Pittsburgh. Safety, Michael Taffy, Texas. Wide receiver, Kevin Coleman Jr., Missouri. Tight end, Seydou Traore. Don't see a school listed. Inside-outside linebacker, DJ Campbell, Texas. And defensive lineman, Max Llewellyn from Iowa. All right, MF, here you go. It's your team, the Miami Dolphins. After all those picks, what in the world are we going to give them for a grade?
For me, I'm going to be a little biased, but I'm also going to be real. It's an A. Now, here's the reason why I would say it is an A. Because I know a lot of people are going to say, oh, what the heck? First off, I know a lot of people are blasting the Caleb Proctor move. However, when you get an offensive tackle and you pair him up with Patrick Paul, two guys who are 6'7", 350 pounds apiece, that left side of the Miami Dolphins is going to be bonkers. If they can start moving guys around, Devon Achane or any running back is going to have a clear path to that secondary line. And also, our new quarterback, Malik Willis, may be able to run to that left side, get a big chunk of yards. Oh my goodness, that's going to be a game changer. Then to get Chris Johnson and Jacob Rodriguez, corner and linebacker, was absolutely stellar. Loved it. I will be critical. I did not like the next two picks. Will Kachmarek and Caleb Douglas. I did not like these moves for the Miami Dolphins. Because for Douglas, he was not really the best wide receiver. I thought we could have gotten a better wide receiver on that. And Kachmarek, I don't understand why we need a blocking tight end, where we need somebody to come off the ball to be a passing tight end. I thought those were the two head scratchers. Anthony, please note this name, okay? Chris Bell. the wide receiver from Louisville.
Yes.
This guy could become the new RB1 for the Miami Dolphins. Now, he is coming off an ACL injury, so status is going to be unknown. However, if this guy does become the starter, or if he becomes the guy that he was at Louisville his senior year, I'm telling you, Florio, Miami has a diamond in the rough. Chris Bell may become maybe their best wide receiver with the team. So that's why I think it's an A. I think there's a lot of excitement and a lot of prospects more than anything else. That's why I really think this is an A grade. So Anthony, it is yours.
Yeah, this is most certainly going to be a disagreement, but it's certainly not because of, personal feelings or any of that. We gotta be realistic, and I gotta be the man who tells it like it is. We gotta tell it like it is, like we always do. So just want to give that little disclaimer out there. Now then, the Miami Dolphins picked up a pair of 5th-round picks by trading down one spot in the opening round. With their first pick in the draft, the Dolphins grabbed Alabama offensive tackle Caden Proctor. The problem is that Miami passed on Caleb Downs, arguably the safest pick in the draft, to take one of the class' biggest boom or bust prospects. In my opinion, the Miami Dolphins made a massive strategic mistake. The organization allowed positional and outright draft pick greed to blur their vision of what should have been a no-brainer. The Dolphins traded up from their second first-round slot obtained in the Jalen Waddle trade and grabbed San Diego State cornerback Chris Johnson. The deal saw Miami surrender the 30th and 90th picks for picks number 27 and 138. Miami landed a playmaking linebacker early on day 2 in Texas Tech's Jacob Rodriguez. Rodriguez recorded a whopping 4 interceptions and 7 forced fumbles this past season. In round 3, Miami grabbed Caleb Douglas and Chris Bell, who should help replace Waddle and Tyreek Hill. It also added a blocking tight end in Will Kachmarek. While the Dolphins added some solid value on day 2, it may uncover a few gems from their plethora of day 3 picks. Their misstep on opening night casts a sour shadow over their class as a whole. I'm sorry, MF, but it's a C+ for me. C+ for the Miami Dolphins. Next up is the Minnesota Vikings. With their picks, they selected defensive lineman Caleb Banks from Florida, linebacker Jake Golday, Cincinnati, defensive lineman Dominique Orange of Iowa State, offensive tackle Caleb Tiernan from Northwestern, safety Jacoby Thomas from Miami, fullback Max Bredesen, Michigan, cornerback Charles Demings, Stephen F. Austin, running back Damon Claiborne, Wake Forest, inside-outside linebacker Gavin Gerhardt, Cincinnati. The Minnesota Vikings released defensive linemen Jonathan Allen and Javon Hargrave early in the offseason. Therefore, it was not a total shock to see them target their defensive front on opening night. Still, the selection of Florida's Caleb Banks could be considered a reach. Fortunately, the Vikings found much better value in round 2. Off-ball linebacker Jake Golday has the potential to be a true 3-down player for Minnesota. And during day 2 of the draft, the Vikings also received a pair of 3rd-round picks, one in 2026 and one in 2027, from the Philadelphia Eagles for edge rusher Jonathan Greenard. Minnesota then went back to its defensive interior, adding Iowa State's Dominique Orange. Orange and Jacoby Thomas will add more defensive depth, while the Vikings should boost their ground game with Damon Claiborne and the draft's top fullback, Max Bredesen. However, it's hard to feel like the Vikings roster is any better than it was at the start of the offseason. Aside from at quarterback, where Kyler Murray adds real improvement potential, though the team has saved considerable cap space. Minnesota operated without a general manager over draft weekend, and it showed. This was my other big loser of the NFL draft. Another solid D. Solid D, my grade for the Minnesota Vikings. MF, what says you?
Not as harsh. Total disagreement. This was a B-. And yeah, I know a lot of people were shocked on this one, but I kind of feel like this was a okay draft, Not a bad draft, but this was, to me, this was a C minus. So there's really nothing more to say. Anthony, it's yours.
Okay, next up. Oh, I wish Bullock was here. It's his reigning,
Oh no,
defending. Yeah, it's Michael Bullock's
nope.
team. Your reigning, defending American Football Conference champion New England Patriots. And here are their selections. Offensive tackle Caleb Lomu, Utah. Edge Gabe Jacas, Illinois. Tight end Eli Raridan, Notre Dame. Defensive back Karan Prunty, Wake Forest. Offensive tackle Demetrius Crownover, Texas A&M. Linebacker Nnamdi Obiazor, TCU. Quarterback Baron Morton, Texas Tech. Running back Jam Miller, Alabama. And edge Quintavious Hutchins, Boston College. All right, MF. The grade from Michael Bullock's AFC champion New England Patriots.
This one is the most intriguing because the grade is all over the place for the Patriots. Some experts have them at an A. Some have them at a B. I thought this was a C. I'm sorry. I did. I wasn't really too thrilled. I mean, look, the Jacobs, the edge was a great pick. I could even give them the benefit of the doubt on their Caleb Lemu from Utah, their first round pick. Why on earth did you get a quarterback when you already have one in Drake May? I mean, what are you doing? That's the biggest question. And even trading up to get Lemu needs to be called into question. So, even though I like Lemu's pick, why trade up? He was falling right to you guys. You didn't need to go and grab him. I think he would have fell right to you. This is a C. I'm sorry. I just did not like this, Anthony, so it's yours.
The New England Patriots saw their offensive line collapse in Super Bowl 60 and decided to take a proactive approach to reloading it. After signing Elijah Vera Tucker in free agency, the Patriots traded up to land Caleb Lomu in round 1. To move up from number 31 to number 28, New England gave up the 125th pick. Lomu will give the Patriots a little bit of insurance in case they eventually move Will Campbell from left tackle. If Campbell sticks at left tackle, Lomu is a high-ceiling prospect who should develop into a solid starter on the right side. New England traded up again in round 2, surrendering the 131st and 202nd picks to go from 63 to 55. In doing so, the Patriots addressed another big need by adding edge rusher Gabe Jacas. In round 3, the Patriots added a pro-ready tight end in Notre Dame's Eli Raridan. On day 3, the Patriots took some chances. They doubled down on the tackle position by adding Demetrius Crownover, who may be limited to playing right tackle only. Karan Prunty, who had 40 tackles and an interception, and Nnamdi Obiazor, 88 tackles and 2 interceptions, were proactive defenders this past season. This was a meat and potatoes draft for the Patriots. New England did not hit any real home runs, but Lomu, Jacas, and Raridan can all be early contributors. C+. C+ is my grade for Michael Bullock's New England Patriots. Next up is the New Orleans Saints. With their selections, they selected wide receiver Jordan Tyson, Arizona State. Defensive lineman Kristen Miller, Georgia. Tight end Oscar Delp, also from Georgia. Inside-outside linebacker Jeremiah Wright, Auburn. Wide receiver Bryce Lance, North Dakota State. Safety Lorenzo Styles, Ohio State. Wide receiver Barry and Brown, LSU. And cornerback TJ Hall from Iowa. With their top pick, the New Orleans Saints managed to land Arizona State's wide receiver Jordan Tyson, the top-ranked receiver. Given the team's desire to build around second-year quarterback Tyler Shuck, it was a very sensible way to begin New Orleans' 2026 draft. Tyson's extensive injury history is worrisome, but his potential to be a legitimate number 1 NFL wide receiver is alluring. Jordan Tyson is a twitchy, dynamic playmaker with the route running traits to be an impact starter and matchup receiver. Early on day 2, New Orleans addressed its defensive front by grabbing Georgia defensive tackle Kristen Miller. Later in the night, they added a high upside tight end in Georgia's Oscar Delp. Bryce Lance and Barian Brown give the Saints some more darts at wide receiver, while Lorenzo Styles gives them a very intriguing project on defense. Styles is a work in progress, but he possesses an elite blend of size, 6'1.5", 194 pounds, and speed with a 4.27 second 40-yard dash. General manager Mickey Loomis made mostly solid picks. Throughout the draft, though, it's impossible to ignore the injury risk that Tyson brings. If he stays healthy as a pro, this could be a foundational class for new-look New Orleans. B+. The grade is going to be B+ for the New Orleans Saints. So, MF, your grade for New Orleans. It's a B+ for me.
Agreed. Not many times here tonight, but yeah, B+. I thought they did a really good job. I thought they did a solid draft. I liked some of the picks that they did. I think the only ones that I didn't really like was the Jeremiah Wright, and I can also say about the wide receiver from LSU, Barian Brown. Those are the only two that I can kind of question, saying what were they thinking, but I thought with the value and everything else, I thought they did very well. So, yeah, nothing bad to say. Anthony, it's yours.
Next up, the first of our 2 New York teams, the New York Giants. With the 5th overall pick, they selected linebacker Arvell Reese, Ohio State. Inside-outside linebacker Francis Mauigoa, Miami. Cornerback Colton Hood, Tennessee. Wide receiver Malachi Fields, Notre Dame. Defensive tackle Bobby Jamison Travis, Auburn. Offensive tackle J.C. Davis, Illinois. And linebacker Jack Kelly from BYU. MF, your grade for the New York Football Giants.
They did very well. I don't think there's any doubt on this one. They were one of the winners of the draft. This was a solid A for me. I thought they did an incredible job. To nab Arvell Reese at the number 5 spot is absolutely amazing. Then to get Francis Mauigoa from the U, that's a double hook. Then to get Colton Hood, from Tennessee, that was a steal in itself. I could not believe they pulled that off. So right out of the gate, they were already hitting home runs left and right. The only player I may question is the Bobby Travis from the defensive tackle from Auburn. That might be the only one where I'm like, I don't know. But all in all, they did an incredible job. To me, they won. They were one of the winners of the draft. This was a solid A for me. Anthony, it is all yours.
The New York Giants probably didn't expect Arvell Reese to fall to them at number 5. However, that's how the board played out, and they'll welcome a defender with as much athletic upside as anyone in this class. Whether he falls into a hybrid role or converts to being a full-time edge defender, the former Buckeye has a bright future as an impact defender in the NFL. With New York's 2nd top 10 pick, acquired in the Dexter Lawrence trade, New York grabbed Miami lineman Francis Mauigoa. The former Miami standout may begin his career at guard and eventually move to tackle, but regardless of where he plays, he should help protect second-year quarterback Jackson Dart. New York turned back to its defense in round 2, landing Tennessee corner Colton Hood. A prospect many expected to go in the first round. He should provide immediate depth on the back end and has the potential to be a long-term starter in New York. The Giants traded into round 3, giving up 2 fourth-rounders and a 2027 fourth-rounder to get Notre Dame receiver Malachi Fields. And I can tell you from firsthand experience, because I saw this young man at Notre Dame watching him, he should immediately be a big physical target for Jackson Dart. General manager Joe Schoen found some decent value on day 3 in prospects like Jack Kelly and J.C. Davis, though New York should not expect any starters to come from the 6th round. New York got a truly special prospect in Reese and managed to address some notable needs without truly reaching at any one spot. Slight disagreement, it's a B+ for me and the New York Football Giants. Moving on to Gang Green, the New York Jets. Here are their selections. With the number 2 overall pick, they selected edge David Bailey from Texas Tech. Tight end Kenyon Sadiq, Oregon. Wide receiver Omar Cooper Jr. from the national champion Indiana Hoosiers. They also selected from the national champion Indiana Hoosiers cornerback D'Angelo Pons, defensive lineman Daryl Jackson Jr., Florida State, quarterback Cade Klubnik, Clemson, inside-outside linebacker Inez Cooper from Miami, and safety VJ Payne from Kansas State. The New York Jets had their choice of players not named Fernando Mendoza at number 2. They opted for a pass rusher and chose the more polished David Bailey over Ohio State's Arvell Reese, who might possess more long-term upside. With their second pick in round 1 acquired in the Sauce Gardner trade, the Jets snapped up Kenyon Sadiq, the top-ranked tight end. New York then traded back into the first round, giving up a 5th-round pick to do so, and snagged Indiana receiver Omar Cooper Jr. The Jets might not have a long-term answer at quarterback, but they added some serious playmaking ability to their receiving core. In round 2, the Jets went back to their defense, grabbing Indiana cornerback D'Angelo Pons. While Pons won't be a one-for-one replacement for Gardner, he'll certainly help reload New York's secondary. Day 3 prospects like Daryl Jackson Jr. and VJ Payne could carve out rotational roles early. However, the headliner of Saturday was New York's selection of Clemson quarterback Cade Klubnik. Klubnik was once considered a potential first-round prospect, and he represents a sensible dart throw at the game's most important position. The Jets should give him a chance to compete with Geno Smith, Brady Cook, and Bailey Zappi. If he emerges as a surprise starter, great. If he doesn't, New York will have 3 first-round picks in 2027 with which to attack the quarterback position. This was a strong stage-setting draft for the Jets, who will likely target their next franchise quarterback a year from now. Another one of my winners, A- is my grade for the New York Jets, Jets. A- for Gang Green, one of my big winners. What says UMF?
I'm actually going to go a little higher. A, solid A for the New York Jets for all the same reasons that you just talked about. I will say this. I did like the Omar Cooper Jr. from Indiana at the 30th pick. I thought that was a good move for them. And I also love the D'Angelo Pons, the cornerback from the cornerback that is from Indiana as well. So the 2 Indiana boys were the best picks in my mind. The only thing I gotta criticize is, all right, Jets, why Klubnik? Why him? And why round 4 when you needed somebody a little more higher than that? I kind of felt like that was not the right pick. I feel like that may have been maybe the wrong move. Again, you had plethora of quarterbacks. You could have gotten somebody better. And what made it even worse was you traded up to get him. I mean, the value wasn't there. It's an A, but I kind of feel like if they didn't force it, they would have gotten an A+, and that would have been they would have been the biggest winners of the draft, in my opinion. So, Anthony, it's yours.
Next up is the Philadelphia Eagles, and here are their selections. Wide receiver, Makai Lemon, USC. Tight end, Eli Stowers, Vanderbilt. Offensive tackle, Markel Bell, Miami. Quarterback, Cole Payton, North Dakota State. Inside-outside linebacker, Micah Morris, Georgia. Safety, Cole Wisniewski, Texas Tech. Defensive tackle, UR Bernard, International Pathway. And edge, Keyshawn James Newby from New Mexico. MF, for the Philadelphia Eagles, is it fly, Eagles, fly, or not so much?
No, it's fly, Eagles, fly. This is a B+. I thought they did a very good job with this draft. I will say this. To go up and get Malachi Lemon with number 20 to trade back into, to trade up in the first round and to do the shrewd move of stealing him from the Pittsburgh Steelers. All-time GOAT move. I cannot believe, Howie Roseman, you are a shrewd SOB. And people in Pittsburgh are going to hate you for life for that move. That was Oh, dude, the Pennsylvania crime, and I'm all for it. That move alone was like, oh, that was shrewd. I loved it. Yeah, it was a great move. At the end of the day, it's a B plus for me. There's really not much more to say. Just that one move, swooping underneath on Pittsburgh and uh, stealing him away. It was, dude. You want to talk about a boss move? That was a boss move and a half. I still cannot believe that happened. Ah, oh, Florio, it's yours.
How in the world do I follow that? I have no idea, but I will do my best. The Philadelphia Eagles opened their draft by trading up. They sent the 23rd, 114th, and 137th picks to the rival Dallas Cowboys for the 20th pick and a 7th rounder. After moving up, Philly grabbed USC receiver Mekhi Lemon. As a tough and productive inside-outside receiver, Lemon is a terrific addition to the Eagles' offense. While his selection will cast more doubt on the future of A.J. Brown in Philadelphia, he can have a prominent role even if Brown is on the roster in the fall. Howie Roseman added another pass catcher on day 2, snagging Vanderbilt's Eli Stowers, a potential long-term replacement for Dallas Goedert or perhaps A.J. Brown. Stowers plays like a big receiver and topped 600 receiving yards in each of the last 2 seasons. Roseman filled another need on day 3, trading a 2026 third-rounder and a 2027 third-rounder for Vikings edge rusher Jonathan Greenard and a 7th rounder. After making that move, he added a developmental tackle in Markel Bell, who may become an heir for Lane Johnson at right tackle down the road. While Roseman largely focused on depth in day 3, he took an intriguing flyer in North Dakota State quarterback Cole Payton. The single-season FCS starter is a legitimate dual threat with an attractive athletic profile. He's a raw prospect, but his skill set fits what the Eagles do, and he could be a long-term backup if and when Tanner McKee departs. My grade is B+ for the Philadelphia Eagles. Next up, the other team from the Keystone State, the Pittsburgh Steelers. With their selections, they selected outside tackle Max Ihenachor, Arizona State. Wide receiver Jeremy Bernard, Alabama. Quarterback Drew Aller, Penn State. Cornerback Dalen Everett, Georgia. Inside-outside linebacker Jennings Dunker, Iowa. Wide receiver Caden Wetjen, Iowa. Tight end Riley Nowakowski from the national champion Indiana Hoosiers. Defensive lineman Gabriel Rubio, Notre Dame. Safety Robert Spears Jennings, Oklahoma. And running back Eli Heidenreich, Navy. The Pittsburgh Steelers began their draft by taking a chance on Arizona State's Max Ihenachor, a very raw prospect who became involved with football late. Ihenachor does possess an enticing athletic ceiling. He is very much a boomer bust player. He projects as a year one high-level backup with starting upside, with his trajectory dependent on how quickly he can align his tools with consistent technique. Of course, it's fair to wonder if Ihenachor was a player Pittsburgh truly coveted. USC receiver Mekhi Lemon told reporters that he was on the phone with the Steelers when the Eagles traded up to snipe him at number 20 in that shrewd move. And I loved it even more than you did, MF. I absolutely loved that move. Unwilling to miss out on a receiver for the second time, Pittsburgh moved up in round 2 for Jeremy Bernard. The Steelers traded the 53rd, 135th, and 237th picks for the 47th and 249th selections. In round 3, Pittsburgh got itself another developmental quarterback in Penn State's Drew Aller. With a big frame and a big arm, Aller has more upside than any signal caller currently on the Steelers roster. Former Iowa guard Jennings Dunker might compete for playing time right away, while Georgia corner Dalen Everett will provide valuable depth in the secondary. The Steelers seem to prioritize upside on day 3. Caden Wetjen, for example, has the potential to juice Pittsburgh's return game. Navy's Eli Heidenreich and Indiana's tight end Riley Nowakowski are positional chess pieces who can bring offensive versatility. This feels like a wait-and-see draft for the Steelers. If Aller proves to be a better pro quarterback than the collegiate starter, it may be viewed as a masterpiece. However, it's impossible to ignore the fact that Pittsburgh didn't get its first choice in round 1, or the fact that it reached for both Ihenachor and Bernard. So for me, this is another one of my losers here. Not as big as Minnesota and Jacksonville were, but it's a C-. C- is my grade for the Pittsburgh Steelers. So, not much more. MF, your thoughts on the Pittsburgh Steelers draft?
I thought it was a pretty good draft for Pittsburgh. I thought they did a solid job. I can give them a B plus on this one. I thought they did very well. Like I said, look, that I felt bad for Pittsburgh, man. They thought they had their guy, and then they got ripped. Like I said, Philly absolutely did them so much dirt, and for that to be in their own city, in their own building, for that to happen, oh man, I could only imagine what the Steelers must have been feeling right then and there. But I will say this: getting Jerry Bernard, it was a great move for them. I absolutely loved it. One other player that I think is going to be a really good player for Pittsburgh is going to be Max Achenauer or Achenanker, the offensive tackle from Arizona State with the first round pick. I thought they did really well with that. One thing I got to say is I got to give it up for the one from Navy. That was the kind of one of those sentimental picks more than anything else. Great pick for them. B plus for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Anthony, it is yours.
Next up is the San Francisco 49ers, and here are their selections. Wide receiver, Dezon Stribling, Ole Miss. Edge, Romelio Height, Texas Tech. Running back, Kalen Black, Indiana. Defensive lineman, Grayson Halton, Oklahoma. Inside-outside linebacker, Carver Willis, Washington. Cornerback, Ephesians Prysock, also from Washington. Linebacker, Jaden Duger, Louisiana. And inside-outside linebacker, Enrique Cruz Jr. of Kansas. MF, your grade for the 49ers?
I'm going to give this a B minus. I thought they did a really good job. I thought they did solid. I actually did not like their first pick, though. I wasn't really fond of their first pick, but they did rebound with the edge from Texas Tech, Height. I thought they did a really good job with that. But it kind of was like hit, miss, hit, miss, hit, miss. So for me, it was a B minus. So that's all I can give. Like I said, it was kind of a mixed bag. There was more good than bad. So, Anthony, it's yours.
The San Francisco 49ers traded down twice on opening night, eventually moving out of the first round entirely. The 49ers gave up a fourth rounder and moved from number 27 to number 33, adding the 90th and 197th picks along the way. With the first pick in round 2, the 49ers grabbed Mississippi receiver Dezon Stribling. The speedy wideout should be a terrific complement to free agent addition Mike Evans and will give Brock Purdy a legitimate home run threat. Stribling impressed with a 4.3 second 40-yard dash in Indianapolis. However, the value in his selection is questionable. The 49ers then traded out of the second round, flipping the 58th and 152nd picks for the 70th and 107th selections. They managed to address a big need, though, by grabbing Romelio Height early in round 3. As a team, San Francisco recorded just 20 sacks last year. The 49ers added backfield depth with Indiana's Kalen Black, which should help prevent them from overloading Christian McCaffrey this season. Ephesians Prysock was a top 100 prospect and remains a solid value on day 3. Fellow Saturday selections Jaden Duggar and Enrique Cruz Jr. are far less likely to have an early impact. It's not an overly impressive class for the 49ers, so they did well to move trade down early and still address their biggest needs at edge and wide receiver. C minus. I'm sorry. Yeah, it's another C minus for the San Francisco 49ers. Next up, your reigning, defending, undisputed Super Bowl champions, Seattle Seahawks. And they selected running back Jadarian Price, Notre Dame. Safety Bud Clark from TCU. Cornerback Julian Neal, Arkansas. Inside-outside linebacker Bo Stevens, Iowa. Wide receiver Emmanuel Henderson Jr. from Kansas. Cornerback Andre Fuller, Toledo. Defensive lineman Devin Eastern, Minnesota. And cornerback Michael Dansby, Arizona. The Seattle Seahawks entered the draft with only 4 total selections. They made sure their first one counted. After losing Super Bowl 60 MVP Kenneth Walker III to Kansas City, Seattle needed a new lead running back. They got their guy by snagging Notre Dame's Jadarian Price at the bottom of round 1. While Price largely played behind Jeremiah Love at Notre Dame, he should move ahead of Zach Charbonnet in Seattle's committee backfield. At the bottom of round 2, Seattle addressed another need by adding TCU safety Bud Clark. The talented ball hawk, who had 15 interceptions and 2 touchdowns in college, should help replace the departed Kobe Bryant on the back end. The Seahawks traded back in round 3, which netted them some additional day 3 draft capital, adding number 216 to move back 3 spots. They then traded down in round 6 and 7 to add a few more prospects to their draft haul. Day 3 additions like Andre Fuller, Emmanuel Henderson Jr., and Michael Dansby may not be rookie stars, but they can help fill valuable depth slots and special teams roles while playing on cheap rookie deals. For a team trying to keep a Super Bowl caliber roster together, there's value in having cheap back-end players. Given the limited capital with which Seattle started, it was a fairly successful weekend. My grade is B- for the Super Bowl champs. So give me B- for them. So MF, your grade for the Super Bowl champion Seattle Seahawks.
I'm actually with you there, Anthony. I'm actually going to go a little higher. I'm going to say solid B. But like you said, all the picks that they did were really good. I actually don't mind it. The only 2 players I didn't really like was the De'Veon Easton and the Michael Dansby. I think those were the 2 questionable picks for me. But other than that, everybody else did very well. So yeah, so B, so solid B for me for the world champion Seattle Seahawks. So Anthony, it's yours.
We got 3 teams left. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers are next, and they added with their picks edge Ruben Bain Jr., Miami, linebacker Josiah Trotter, Missouri, wide receiver Ted Hurst, Georgia State, cornerback Keontae Scott, Miami, defensive lineman DeMonte Capehart, Clemson, inside-outside linebacker Billy Schroth from Notre Dame, and tight end Bauer Sharp from LSU. MF, your grade for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
A-, and they did an incredible job. Ruben Bain Jr. is their cash cow. That was an absolute steal. Ruben Bain was falling down off the draft board. There's been some character issues. There's been some stuff outside of the game that he probably got himself into a little bit of some trouble. And at the end, I thought they absolutely nailed it. This was a home run for me. So this is a solid A- for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Buy the kids, Bucky, because you deserve it. You definitely should celebrate this one. You did really well. Florio, is yours.
Had someone told the Tampa Bay Buccaneers a few months ago that they would be able to open their draft with Ruben Bain Jr. and that it would not have required a trade, they probably would not have believed it. The top-ranked pure edge rusher, Bain will immediately fill a big defensive need for the Bucs. While his draft stock took a bit of a hit from a shorter than ideal arm length, he should be a 3-down disruptor as a rookie. In the second round, the Buccaneers snapped up Missouri linebacker Josiah Trotter. Though Trotter is a bit more polished as a run defender, he'll help replace the recently retired Levante David, along with free agent addition Alex Anzalone. After trading down in round 3, the Buccaneers grabbed Georgia State receiver Ted Hurst. While Hurst certainly won't outright replace the departed Mike Evans, his 6'4" frame will give Baker Mayfield another big mismatch target. While Tampa didn't find the starting cornerback it needed early, Keontae Scott should compete for playing time. Billy Schroth could also be a day 3 gem. The Bucs may not have filled every major need over the weekend, but they're coming away with 3 top 100 prospects and potential starters and a player in Bain who will transform the complexion of Tampa's defensive front. Solid B is my grade for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Next up is the Tennessee Titans. They selected with the 4th overall pick wide receiver Carnell Tate from Ohio State. Defensive lineman Keldrick Falk, Auburn. Linebacker Anthony Hill Jr., Texas. Inside-outside linebacker Fernando Carmona, Arkansas. Running back Nicholas Singleton, Penn State. Defensive lineman Jackie Marshall, Baylor. Inside-outside linebacker Pat Coogan from the national champion Indiana Hoosiers. And tight end Jaron Kanik, Oklahoma. The Tennessee Titans missed out on Jeremiah Love at number 4, so they pivoted to Ohio State wide receiver Carnell Tate in order to get Cam Ward a new weapon. Some may question the value of passing on blue-chip defenders like Arvell Reese and Sonny Styles, but there's plenty of logic in helping your second-year quarterback. The Titans then traded back into round 1 to land defensive lineman Keldrick Falk. Tennessee gave up the 35th, 66th, and 101st picks to get the 31st, 69th, and 165th selections. Tennessee added more defensive help in round 2, adding Texas linebacker Anthony Hill Jr., a talented and productive off-ball linebacker. Hill should find ways to contribute early. He had 249 tackles in 40 college games. In terms of board value, the Titans largely reached for need on day 3. However, Fernando Carmona and Pat Coogan both have the skills and traits to eventually start for Tennessee. Carmona shouldn't just be viewed as depth. He has extensive starting experience. He was announced as a guard, and the Titans could upgrade at right guard over Cordell Volson. Overall, the Titans did a decent job of finding players who can contribute and who fit what the team wants to build on both sides of the ball. However, the Tate pick could look like a massive whiff if he's just a solid receiver and Reeser Styles becomes a perennial Pro Bowler. It's a solid C. That's my grade for the Tennessee Titans. Solid C. MF, what says you?
Yeah. For Tennessee, it's a little bit of a I believe it is a wait. No, I agree. It's a C. I thought they were going to be a little better, but no, it like you said, you made the valid point on everything, so nothing more to say, Anthony. We're down to the last team, and here we go.
Yes, indeed. And it is the Washington Commanders. And with their selections, they selected with the 7th overall pick, linebacker Sonny Styles, Ohio State, wide receiver Antonio Williams, Clemson, edge Joshua Josephs, Tennessee, running back Katron Allen, Penn State, inside-outside linebacker Matt Golden, Michigan State, and quarterback Ethan Kaliakmanis from Rutgers. MF, our final grade of the night, the Washington Commanders. What do you got?
B minus. B minus for Washington. I thought they did a fine job with what they had. There wasn't really anything bad. It's just I kind of felt like a couple of guys were a little bit some reaches. Some guys they could have gotten better, but all in all, not bad. Pretty good job by the Washington Commanders. So Florio, you have the final say for the night.
After finishing the 2025 season ranked 32nd in total defense and 27th in points allowed, the Washington Commanders were always likely to take the best defender available at number 7 overall. They probably didn't believe, though, that Sonny Styles would fall to them there. The 6th-ranked prospect, Styles should be a 3-down, do-everything defender in the mold of future Hall of Famer Bobby Wagner. A converted safety, Styles will fill a variety of roles in Dan Quinn's defense. The Commanders didn't have a 2nd-round pick because they surrendered it in last year's Laramie Tunsil trade. However, they did add a day 2 receiver who can contribute early in Clemson's Antonio Williams. Washington found another defender who could contribute early on day 3. Joshua Joseph should carve out an early rotational role on the edge. Katron Allen should push for playing time in the backfield rotation sooner than later, while Ethan Kaliakmanis can be developed to replace Marcus Mariota as Washington's long-term backup quarterback. Washington didn't have the volume of picks that some other franchises did, but the Commanders added a special prospect in Styles and a handful of players who can fill very valuable roles over the next few years. B+ is my grade for the Washington Commanders. And with that will put the bow on our 2026 NFL Draft Recap Special. We want to thank you all so very much for tuning in and listening here tonight. We will be back with you again on Tuesday night at around that 10:30 threshold for another edition of Ridiculously Raw. Right back here on the Tone 25. We got Monday Night Raw and NXT. And then Thursday night, TXN Sports World, we will preview the 2nd round of the NBA and Stanley Cup playoffs. And we'll also get into some UFL. We have not done some UFL in some time, but we will resume our UFL coverage on Thursday night. Friday night, we got the Cerebral Smack Talk, 11 p.m. following SmackDown. MF will have it, Braves Fan 95, back at our normal time, as we will have TNA Impact, Friday Night SmackDown, and we will preview the Backlash pay-per-view, because Backlash is this Saturday night. So that'll be on Friday. And then Saturday night, probably maybe around 10 or so. Because remember, the Backlash event starts at 6. It's a B pay-per-view, so it could be done within a 2.5 to 3 hour period. You never know. So So we could be looking at an early start time on Saturday for the Backlash recap. So that's it. So until Tuesday night for Ridiculously Raw, this is Anthony Florio here for good old MF Michael Fletcher, and in spirit, Michael Bullock. And of course, always and forever, our First Lady, Dee Dee Woodson. You know the routine, everybody. Thumbs up. Talk to you later. Yeah. Throw it up, Fortune 4 style. Bye for now, my friends. God bless. Be good to each other. Have a blessed couple of days. And until Tuesday night for Ridiculously Raw, you have been watching our 2026 NFL Draft Recap Special right here on the Tone 25 on YouTube and StreamYard.com. For everybody who has been a part of this one, for now, Anthony Florio, so long, and bye, everybody, bye.